Welcome to Built Forward, the podcast exploring where construction is heading over the next decade and how AI and other emerging technologies will and won't transform the industry. I'm Jason Jacobs, a longtime startup founder, investor, and the host. Let's get into it. Today's guest is Ed Smith, co-founder and co-CEO of Amply Energy, which is software that helps residential HVAC contractors size, design, and sell heat pump systems. Before Amply, Ed was a principal at BCG, ran Wayfair's Canada business to nearly $1 billion in revenue, and built the carbon business at Indigo Ag. But Ed found his way into selling into the trades, which is interesting for someone like me. So I was psyched to have him on and learn more about what he's up to at Amply, where he thinks things are going, and what he's learned along the way in his journey so far. It's a great discussion, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, Ed Smith, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jason. Longtime listener from your previous podcast. Excited to be on this one.
Yeah, well, I'm a little rusty. It's been a while. This is episode number 1.
Whoa.
Yeah, and I woke up this morning and I don't get haircuts. I shave my head and beard at once with the clippers, and it had been like 2 months or something. So I was like, Wolfman. So I got all cleaned up for this. So this is a big deal, Ed.
You look very professional.
But yeah, psyched to have you on. When I first started thinking about the trades a few months ago, you were one of the first people that I reached out to because you were, we're a transplant who kind of grew up in software and we're now selling into the trades for the first time. So I was dying to learn from you. And you've been a great sounding board and confidant as I've been navigating. So I'm psyched to have you on and talk about Amply Energy.
Cool. Thanks for having me. Yeah, excited to be here.
Well, what's Amply Energy, Ed? Maybe we'll start there.
Yeah, let's. So we help HVAC contractors size, design, and sell heat pump systems. We're biased. We think heat pump systems are the best HVAC system out there, and we're focused on residential, by the way. So we think heat pump systems are the best HVAC system out there for virtually any home. There'll be exceptions. But where the technology is today, especially if you do some light weatherization and insulation, we think that's the best way to go, but it can be tricky. Talk to any HVAC contractor and they'll tell you that heat pumps are tricky. The technology has come a long way. And so we have built software to make that easier for your typical residential HVAC contractor. That's us in a nutshell. I can go deeper, but that's sort of the 60-second overview.
So saying heat pumps are better in most cases, I'll just start there. Is that a controversial viewpoint? And if so, what would the people taking the other side of that stance say if they were here to retort?
Sure. It depends on who you talk to, whether it's controversial or not. We have customers in upstate New York, in rural Maine, in Minnesota, who do nothing but heat pumps. Maybe they put backup electric strip in and they have done thousands of installs and they will go to the mat saying heat pumps work in those climates beautifully. But you can absolutely find probably more HVAC contractors who will say, put in a heat pump, electricity bills went through the roof, didn't keep up, didn't remove humidity, and don't touch them with a temporal pole. So you can find both, but we have found that because we actually started Amply as an installation company. So we were serving homeowners. Like think of us as a contractor. We were doing whole home electrification projects. We were installing solar, heat pumps, new panel, battery, EV charger, all that sort of stuff. So we turned wrenches, put the systems in. I didn't turn many wrenches, right? But we did. And we'll put systems in that have worked beautifully. But the key is good sizing and design. You can't just oversize. And a lot of these things, you'll hear contractors say well, it's an inverter. It can scale down as much as you want. That's totally not true. You want a heat pump to be Goldilocks sized. So if you Goldilocks size a heat pump system and install it well, given the quirks of the home, We absolutely think they're the best system out there, but like there's totally people who have put in the wrong size system and they'll behave poorly, but they're a bit less forgiving than your old school furnace or boiler or whatever else.
So, what led you to this opportunity in the first place?
My co-founder, if I'm being totally honest. So my co-founder is a guy named Erik Fitz. He is one of my best friends from college. I'm like the business guy of Amply. He is the technical whiz of Amply. He has quickly become one of the best building science minds in the country. He's the kind of guy who, like, Mitsubishi, Daikin, LG releases like a new air to water heat pump system. He's the guy who on a Saturday night, like over a beer, is reading the new specs, like the engineering submittal. So he's who got me into this. But I had been general manager of a series of business units at a bunch of startups, and they were fun. I liked leading teams. I liked being in charge of product, but I was always reporting to someone, and I just had the itch to do something. But I am not super technically minded. And so I needed a partner who was much more, had a passion for a particular topic. And Erik had it with this. And so he had been at Amply, the installation business, the contracting business, for 6 months. I joined him, and he quickly found I was like the salesperson. And we had this operation we called Operation Make Ed a Decent Electrification Salesperson. And so he was building software and spreadsheets and like simple UI on top of a spreadsheet to like make me better, like to help me size the system right, pick the right equipment, price it, put it in the home. And after like 6 weeks of building the worst software you've ever seen, we were, at the local distributor talking to other guys who were like picking up stuff, showing them the reports we were putting together, and like, can we use that software? We're like, no, you don't want to use this software. It's terrible. It's, we just built it for ourselves. And then give it another 6 weeks of that sort of conversation. We're like, oh, that software is the solution. So then we started focusing on software and selling that. So long way of saying, I came to it through my co-founder, Erik. That was 4 years ago, and one big pivot from contracting business to software company.
Should I take that as that the software pull was so strong, or that there was a push because you didn't have the same conviction about the contracting business?
Both. Very astute question. Both. We thought it was going to be very hard to scale the contracting business. And we were learning that kind of the hard way. But there was also this pull for the software. And we realized like there was a real need, because we would install, say, a solar system and a heat pump system on a home. There's awesome software for solar design and sale. There's Aurora Solar, there's Open Solar, there's Solar Grid, like there's just Solar Graph. There's all these cool products. And then we turned to the heat pump design, and we were using software that was built in 1996. And it felt like it was built in 1996. And so it just seemed, and HVAC is, I don't even know, 5, 10 times, 30 times bigger than solar, like some massive multiple bigger. And we couldn't believe how bad the software was. So we felt the need and the pull. We felt it ourselves because we were so sick of using the existing HVAC software. But we also found that the installation business was going to be really, really hard to scale. So it's a good question.
And what about the installation business makes it hard to scale?
So there are some nationwide contractors, Toll Brothers, but they build the same box 5 million times. Same box. There is no existing home retrofit GC that's nationwide, because every home is very unique. Even if you go to a development where Toll Brothers came through and they built 20 of the same box, they're all facing the sun a little bit differently. They're all shaded a little bit differently. Within a year, every homeowner in there has started to do some different stuff. The system broke, so we replaced it. We added an addition. We took this wall down, whatever. everyone is custom. Everyone is a custom job. And we have come to think about it as you're not installing a system. Like the equipment is not the system. The system is what a good HVAC contractor custom manufactures on site. It's the ducts, it's the refrigerant line run, it's how they mount the whatever. And so it's more a custom manufacturing gig than it is an installation gig. And that should be very custom. It should be very nuanced. And honestly, we just didn't see a way to scale that. Living it, doing whatever we did, $1 million worth of installs, man, everything requires real customization in a way that's really hard to scale.
And is that HVAC specific or heat pump specific?
I would say it's HVAC specific. And again, I'm talking about homes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like commercial is a different ballgame. So we're big fans of the National Comfort Institute. We just became members of the National Comfort Institute. The National Comfort Institute is, I think, the single best voice for high performance residential HVAC out there. They would certainly, I think, agree. Like HVAC is custom manufacturing and it should be every time. You'll find contractors who do what you call box swapping. I go in, the existing furnace is 60,000 BTUs, it's broken. You get a new 60,000 BTU furnace. That could work, but like you're probably pulling out an 80% efficient furnace and putting in a 96% efficient furnace. And so the actual BTUs being thrown out by that thing are quite different. And how that airflow interacts with the existing duct system is quite different. So I think HVAC should be massively custom. And in the best cases it is, but it isn't always. So it depends on kind of what section of the market you pick.
How much have you looked into the private equity dollars that are flowing into the category and how they would think about this topic?
I try not to look at the private equity dollars flowing in because it's rough, I think. I'll answer anecdotally. We have a few friends and customers who have sold to private equity. And the story we hear pretty quickly is that it turns pretty transactional and driven by the numbers pretty fast. And the quality of salesperson changes really fast. And when it was a family-owned shop, you had salespeople who really took pride in the design and to service the debt load that private equity just loads on to an HVAC business. Like you have got to drive the heck out of that. And by driving the heck out of that, it's by selling new systems because it's $30K instead of a $2,000 repair. So they, I'm sure, are looking at it as box swapping business, but I think that is often doing a disservice to the homeowner.
So if I'm hearing right, it sounds like you think that it is an important business for homeowners because it's delivering systems that are compelling and that it's a good small business, but that, fragmented with good small businesses is probably right size for the category.
I think so. And there are markets like that, right? Where your optimal business size is not a giant monopoly serving the entire market, where there's enough nuance, region to region, town to town, whatever. I think this is one where I'm curious to see how private equity roll-ups end. I've heard stories of like there was a round of this in the late 90s, early 2000s, and the private equity roll-ups of HVAC didn't work out very well. So I'm curious. I'm like genuinely curious to see how it goes. But I'll say for us, if you look at our website, all of our marketing, everything about it, we are really tailored towards your smaller family-owned business. And we have customers who have 50 salespeople. It's big, but it's family-owned. Private equity is much less interested in our product because it takes more time. It does take a bit more time, but you really design the right system.
Got it. And so getting back to Amply. So that dynamic of how it isn't cookie cutter and how it should be custom from home to home, from a from a heat pump system standpoint, does that same dynamic apply when you're selling software to the shops, or is it much more one size fits all when you for the software that you guys are selling?
Our software, we've got one piece of software. It doesn't. We're just too small a company. So as we talk to companies, there are companies who we're not a fit for, and I'd love to expand our product such that we can be focused on different kinds of companies. But given our size and given we're not taking private equity or venture capital funding, we're growing organically. We're sort of narrowly focused, and so our ideal customer that we've gotten to know is a customer who is family owned. Believes heat pumps are the future. They don't have to do all heat pumps, but like they see heat pumps taking more and more share of their business, and they're excited about that. They want to design systems the right way, and they're tech forward. They're generally already using tablets in the field. They've applied software in other places, but like if we hit those 4 characteristics, it's a good customer for us. And I don't know what that is, but it's like 10% of the HVAC market or less. But that's where we're focused. Like we're really happy to serve that section of the market.
How do you find them?
We have a podcast. We partner with exceptional partners like the National Comfort Institute, ACA, the Air Conditioning Contractors of America, local organizations, distributors who skew towards heat pumps. Like we've found channel partners are really effective. We don't do Facebook or Google. I spend $0 on advertising. Contractors are sick of being sold to. Like there's a lot of people. Sorry, that was my wife. Contractors are sick of being sold to. And so we have found the single best way is word of mouth. And so the word of mouth is either referrals from existing customers or from trusted partners, like some of the ones I just named. A really great distributor, or an industry organization like NCI or ACA, or our podcast. It's a great way for folks to get to know us. And it's called the Heat Pump Podcast. And we're really focused on heat pump design and sales and building a business around that. And that's been a great way to find companies who see that as a future, but want to figure out how to build a business around particularly heat pumps.
Mm-hmm. And from a business strategy standpoint, as the cost of creating software continues to come down quickly, how do you think about defensibility and moats versus just like building a great product that does what it says and says what it does?
Yeah, we're much more in that second category. I'm not smart enough to figure out whatever AI is going to do to the software world. All we know is we have totally stumbled onto something that is really resonating with customers. Our growth is great. Our retention is great. I'm sort of repeatedly both amazed by what AI can deliver and then like deeply disappointed by what AI can deliver. And so we operate in a space where it's really like it's deterministic. Like we scan a home, we create an accurate 3D model of the home, and then it's about appropriately creating like the digital twin of that home to figure out how many BTUs it needs, and then what system's going to fit it right. Like that's a lot of just frankly like deep math that would be very expensive to run with inference chips. Like you just don't need that. Like the best way to do it is like put in the inputs, you're going to get an output. And so we're just continuing to like really listen to our customers, hear what they want, hear where they're going. And we try to also just frankly follow our like hearts and guts about like, what are we excited to build? And when we hear something that's going to excite our customers and excite us, like that's where we go. And that's been our playbook for the last 4 years and it's been working. So like, we're just sticking with that, and saying no to stuff that feels like it's outside our zone of competence where we're good. And yeah, I hope that works for as long as it possibly can.
And for a customer that's excited about the promise of your product, What are you replacing, if anything?
Yeah. There's different levels of what we're replacing. At the lowest end, we're replacing like finger in the air. There's jokes like, the old sizing system used to be when you parked your truck on the curb, you'd hold up the number of fingers and how much does it cover the house? Well, that's how many tons you need. That house is a 4-ton, as you like look at it this way. It's not quite that bad anymore, but like there are totally guys who would walk into this office that I'm in right now and be like, super small room, 6,000 BTUs. And that's not a good way to size the system. So we could replace just kind of that, or we replace rules of thumb. Guys take out a tape measure, measure a home, get the rough square footage multiplied by X BTUs per square foot. It's a little bit better, but it's still not great. Most commonly, we're replacing sort of the industry incumbent software for sizing and design. RightSoft, EliteSoft. There's a whole bunch of these. Actually, I take that back. There's not a whole bunch of those. There's 7, I think, that are approved by the Air Conditioning Contractors of America. So it's a relatively small list of industry incumbent software for sizing and design, and that's often what we're replacing, or a partner too, frankly, because those are really designed around new construction, and we're great for existing homes. And that was like this section of the market that was totally unserved. That software was really rough to use on an existing home. And that's where we're glorious, because we use the LiDAR to scan a home, and you quickly get something as good as a blueprint, which you have for new construction. We basically create that, in a less than 10-minute walkthrough of a 2,000 square foot home. So we're still often used alongside the industry incumbents.
And in an industry like this, where face-to-face and relationships and trust are so important, have you adopted a regional focus? And I'd love to hear about both where you're focused initially, but also where you might focus in the future, and how you might adapt or adopt as you stray further and further from home base.
So no, we're nationwide and in Canada. So we're in 47 states. We have found we travel for events, and that's great. And we'll travel for a good regional event, and we travel for great national events. We meet a bunch of our customers that way. But we've found today with FaceTime, Zoom, all sorts of text message solutions, Loom, we can support people from anywhere and build relationships with people from anywhere. I still do every sales call myself. We have a buy now button on our website now, so people can just come and buy if they don't want to talk to me. But like, there's no other salesperson. You're just going to talk to me. At some point, we'll outgrow that, but we're still doing that and still having fun with it, frankly. And I learn something from every potential customer I talk to, or every existing customer who calls in and needs support in some way. So no, we're nationwide. We're not outside North America. That would require some hard thought, but with technology today, we're able to support the whole US from our homes. We're a fully remote company.
How big are the big incumbents? Do they have capacity to do meaningful M&A? And even if they did and they were interested, like, would you be interested? How do you think about the goals of Amply Energy, and how do you think about optionality versus really being intentional about choosing a path?
So I worked for a successful software company where I ran a large business unit that ultimately went public. And there were always rumors like, oh, are we going to be bought by like? And so the CEO would do these town halls, and I don't know, at least on half the town halls, this question of, are we going to sell to Amazon or whatever would come up. And he always had the same answer. He was like, it would be irresponsible if we didn't take any phone call about acquisition. And so I take all of them. But the thing I ask myself is, will we serve our customers better if we're owned by that other person? Will we do what's right for our shareholders and create as much value if we're sold to this other company? And will everyone working here like have as much fun and enjoy life? And like those three can be at odds, but like generally that's the three questions we ask. Those are the three questions I ask. So we have gotten a couple of calls, and the answer has been no, no, no for every single call that's come in. No, we don't think we'll serve our customers better. No, we won't have as much fun. And no, we don't think we'll create as much value for shareholders. And for us, shareholders are just employees, right? It's all of us. So the answer has been no. And I suspect the answer will continue to be no. Because we're happy to be narrowly focused. We want to would rather have 1,000 wildly enthusiastic fans than 100,000 lukewarm customers. So that's our model. And if that's not really you can't do that being part of a bigger company, right? Yes, that's where we are.
I want to go back to something you said before. You said that you're resi focused, and that commercial is quite different. What is it that you think what are the biggest differences between the commercial side and the residential where you're focused?
I mean, a whole bunch of different stuff that kind of runs the gamut. How you acquire your customers is different. A residential shop is it's B2C, like they're trying to acquire local homeowners. Whereas if you're commercial, you're going to have like these giant companies, you're dealing with procurement teams, like it's a completely different sales motion. The nature of the buildings is different. What they're made out of is different. The type of equipment you install, fundamentally it runs the same way, but it's very, very different. Your design, there's virtually in any home residential project, there's no engineer involved, probably not even an architect involved, not for an existing home. Whereas anything you're doing for a commercial building, you're going to have an engineer probably doing like a custom load calculation, custom system design. Yeah. So, I mean, those are a few of them, but we so rarely touch commercial, that I'm not even sure I could go much deeper on any of the other differences. All I know is what we can do is residential and light commercial, like a coffee shop. It's kind of like a house, but it's a storefront. Once you get beyond that, it's not an area we really go into. And we find that our customers very rarely do both. They'll do residential and light commercial, but heavy commercial is just kind of a different ball game. And you got to build your business around serving each of those well, and it's just a very different market.
For the customers that you serve, I mean, it sounded like you have a really defined, I don't know if you call it a muse or a target customer, but
ideal customer profile.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. ICP. Is that called ICP? Yeah. Yeah. I'm still learning all the functional operating lingo.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sounds like you have that pretty well defined. When you think about expansion, are you more likely to offer that same customer, help them in more ways, or serve more kinds of customers over time?
We want to serve that customer in more ways, for sure. So we have a belief that is based in no data, but we believe that there will be in the future an electrification contractor. And the goal will be a homeowner in a storm and electricity goes out. They want to know they're set. And so they're going to have backup. Could be a generator. Probably better to have a battery. They want their roof to be a power plant. So they're going to have solar up there because electricity prices are going through the roof everywhere. But really they just want to know that they are comfortable and healthy and the cost of their home is reasonable kind of in any situation. And there'll be contractors who are engaging in the incredible exercise of changing America's millions of homes over to that sort of model. And it's going to be really hard. And the design is going to be super tricky. and you're going to want to get it just right, because you're not going to want to put in one extra solar panel on that roof to cover what's going on inside the home. And you're not going to want to give Elon Musk any extra money for that battery system than you have to. And so precision and Goldilocks sizing is going to be really important. And we think those guys are going to be massively differentiated and make excellent money. And we will help them do that. So we fully plan to get beyond just the heat pump aspect of what we do now and kind of into more stuff in that electrification stack. Yeah, that's our wild dream.
Are there software vendors that are doing for those other layers of the stack what Amply's doing for heat pumps?
Yes, in solar. No, in almost anything else. And almost certainly no for the integration of all of them. Like tying it all together. There's great solar design, but like they don't really take, they're not going to tell you how many kilowatt hours the heat pump system is going to use. There's some that are kind of trying to do that, but the progress hasn't been great. So it's a pretty wide open space. I'll say the electrification contractor doesn't really exist yet, but with the eradication of the solar tax credit by the Trump administration, we have had a big influx in solar customers who are now adding heat pumps to their quiver. And so that's been very cool because that's like the first sign of it. But that's what we want to do. So we want to do more for that kind of narrow section of the market.
Mm-hmm. And it seems like you're taking the approach that we'll just put one foot in front of the other, and we'd rather just do things our way at our own pace and follow our own whims than really put a bunch of pressure and take a bunch of optionality off the table by overcapitalizing the company early. How do you balance that with just the worry that the more success you find and the more the category grows up and gets interesting, the more competition there'll be, and if you don't move quickly, someone else might eat your lunch? Is that a worry?
In my darkest moments, it is. But when I really think about it, having been at a bunch of overcapitalized companies, I think outside capital, excess capital does more harm than good. Are you familiar with the parable of the pigs and the chickens?
No.
So at a bacon and egg breakfast, pigs and chickens are both involved. But the chickens are lightly involved, whereas the pigs gave everything for that breakfast. They gave their lives for that breakfast, right? So I have come, the longer I've been around at different companies, I don't like chickens. I don't like people who swoop in, aren't fully invested, have an opinion, but can control things, and they give you their opinion and then boom, they're out. Like pigs. Like pigs who are putting their lives on the line to do something. And so I'm building a company of pigs. Anyone involved is 100% invested. We don't have anyone else who can tell us which way we want to go, which I think is super powerful. And I also fully believe that constraints breed creativity. Are you familiar with the story of how Dr. Seuss became Dr. Seuss?
I am not.
I hope your listeners actually like this. All right, so whatever it was, 80 years ago, children's books were a wasteland. They weren't interesting. People weren't doing it. There was stuff like See Jane Run, Jane Throwball. It was this terrible stuff. And so Dr. Seuss was at Dartmouth. Somebody did a study. Kids of a certain age group typically have 200 words. And so there was this challenge, write a children's book only using those 200 words. And Dr. Seuss said, forget that. I'm doing 50 words. I'm going to take the first 50 and I'm going to build a book with the first two that rhyme, which were cat and hat. And so because he couldn't expand his word choice to make the book more interesting, he had to make it interesting in other ways. And so he came up with two major inventions. One was his rollicking rhyme scheme, which is delightful, and like you can still think of it. It's like the Dr. Seuss rhyme scheme. So he came up with that, and he came up with another innovation, which was 2-page fold-out illustrations. So there's always like kind of like one illustration on one page, but when you open it up, every Dr. Seuss illustration expands across both, and so it's like super engaging. He only came up with those because he constrained himself from like the most obvious solution. I find in software the most obvious solution is raise more money and hire more people. If we cut ourselves off from that, which we have, I have found over and over again at Amply, the Dr. Seuss thing comes true. If you take off the most obvious option, that's when creativity really kicks in. It's not about having a blank sheet of paper. It's actually constraining yourself in some meaningful ways. And we've got an awesome team who is incredibly creative. And I'm much more excited to build a company that way. And so I don't worry about speed. I think we're going to make unique, very unique decisions that will continue to serve us well against a better capitalized competitor.
So a few other things I wanted to touch on. One is just the topic of convening or community. I mean, you've got all these customers, and you said that you learn, so much from every customer call that you do. Is there any appetite amongst your customers to learn from each other? And is there anything that you do to foster that, or might do directionally?
Yes, and not yet. Yes, they want to learn from each other. No, we don't do it yet. But one of the things we're really excited to do, there's a thing in the residential HVAC industry, and actually for contractors broadly, called mixed groups. At least that's what ACRA calls it. Mixed groups. They'll build a group of like 10 different contractors who aren't even remotely close to competing with each other, and it's like pretty intense. When someone new joins the group, because someone retired, moved on, a new company joins the group, everyone in the group will fly for 2 weeks to that person's company and see how it works. And the deal is, in these mixed groups, fully open book. Everyone's P&Ls, everyone's financials, fully shared, and folks really get into it with each other. This is tried and true in a bunch of different spaces. We would love to do this for heat pump focused businesses and sort of electrification businesses. So a dream we have is to do an Amply mixed group. I'm optimistic we'll announce that on our podcast and launch it in the next 12 months. We'll start with like 10 people, 10 different companies. But that is something I'm giddy to do. I think that's going to be super cool.
And similar question about your advisors. I noticed on the website that there's a bunch of interesting, well-placed people that are involved in the company in an advisory capacity. I mean, the traditional talking points that you hear in early entrepreneurship is you don't want to get people involved that are just going to be pretty faces and fancy titles. Like if you're not going to be leaning on them, then don't don't waste your time. And certainly that's a mantra that I've heard from you in terms of how you and Erik are thinking about building the company. How do and don't you lean on your advisors? And then same question around connectivity. Is there anything you do to to get more than one sounding board at once so that they can debate, build on each other's points, et cetera?
Yeah. The contractor advisors listed there, I have all of them. I have been riding shotgun in their truck multiple times. They are folks like we absolutely lean on for customer insight. What do you want? What do you need? Where's the product falling down? They're like one of them on there. Like she sent me pictures. She took her 2 daughters to Disney World for the first time. And so like I was getting pictures from Disney World. Like that's not necessarily helping the company, but like we're on that level of relationship. And so I love that. And then there's 2 other categories of folks on there for us. Deep industry expert. So Bruce Harley's on there, and he's orchestrating the single best longitudinal heat pump performance test in the world. There's no one I'd rather talk to about heat pump performance. So we have some deep industry experts on there. And then the third bucket is just very successful entrepreneurs. Maybe in the space, maybe adjacent to the space, but folks who we go to for like, how do you run a business? And how do you do it without raising a bunch of external capital? There's no like venture investors on there or anything like that. Like these are kind of brass tacks operators. So that's how we do it. And then we do every other month we do a board of advisors meeting. And it's not always the full group. But we kind of selectively bring folks in based on the topics that are top of mind for us. But that's how we've done it. And that, you're seeing it now and it's a bunch of pictures. I think when it started, it was like 2 pictures, and some have come off. But we've really only put people on there who like we call regularly for advice on how to build a better product or build a better company.
And you mentioned a couple things that I want to push on. One is that, you still take every sales call yourself. So in some ways, super small team, flat. But you also mentioned, exceptional team and, you want to serve them well for a long period of time. So, what is the makeup of the team? And is it, all in one geography? Do you have a physical office? And once you've answered kind of that context, I'd love to understand how you think about both defining and reinforcing culture.
Okay, so fully remote. Everyone is, so fully remote. We have no office. We have 6 W-2 employees in the U.S. And then Erik and I have both gotten sort of these virtual assistants, which actually is absolutely game changing, which has really helped he and I scale and sort of do more. But those folks are based in the Philippines, and they are awesome. So we're in like an 8-person team, roughly split right down the middle between engineering and go-to-market, which skews more engineers because Erik wears a bunch of hats. He's very much our sort of product visionary, but he also does all the customer success because his building science knowledge is important for that. So that's basically the team makeup. We are small, but we're very high octane. And I like to say everyone is on the rock face. Like there's no managers. No one is 1 degree removed from the customer. Everyone is like intimately involved with the customer or the product deeply. Which frankly is a glorious, glorious way to run a company. That's the team makeup. On culture, one of the best lines I ever heard on culture is, culture is the behavior you tolerate. It's these small things of just how people act. And so we have values on our website, but I find like the single most important thing is like, in the moment, if someone does something that doesn't feel like it's in line with the culture, like you got to talk about it. If it happens on a meeting with the entire team, like it's got to happen in the moment. And I'm not talking about calling people out necessarily. Like, God, you got to be a steward and a guardian of the culture. And I think that's a thing that Erik and I as co-founders take really seriously. And one of the things we do at our on-sites, we pull up our values and say, are we behaving in line with these? Because like they're not values if they're not actually dictating our behavior, not in a way that's like rules and regulations and demerits, but just in a way like when we interact with each other and our customers, like do they feel this stuff? And so that's when I take super seriously, but because I've been a part of cultures that are not that.
And I also wanted to ask about AI. I mean, it sounds like you're not using AI heavily in terms of the customer-facing side and the product, but how much are you personally using it? How much is the team using it? How much are you using it collectively as an organization? And directionally, how much how much do you think about that? How much do you worry about that? What are the plans, if any?
We use it a lot. We are putting in place a bunch of structures around it because we're realizing we started out, everyone just had their own Claude account, ChatGPT. And then we realized like, well, like we're building skills in Claude that like we should be sharing across each other. So now we have a corporate account. We're like actually in the process of building the folder that has all of our context documents that can be called upon. We're sharing projects. One of the things we are not doing is there's a lot of commentary on right now about like where's the ROI on AI? Like certainly a ton of expenses going towards it, but like where's the ROI? We constantly experiment, but if it's just not fit for use, like we back away. And we'll come back when when Fable comes out. Like, well, let's try it again with Fable. Didn't work with GPT 3.15, but like maybe it'll work with Fable. So we're always experimenting. I use the heck out of it for pre-drafting emails, marketing copy. It always goes through my filter, but like it's a great first cut. For podcast editing, for other content creation, it is very helpful. Although it took a ton, I couldn't believe how much training it took, like personal training on our end, to get it to be good at customer success stuff. It's still not perfect, but we spend a ton of time on that. So we do use it quite a bit. I would say we're either skeptically enthusiastic or enthusiastically skeptical. It's going to do a bunch for us, but yeah, it's not the best thing since sliced bread, I wouldn't say.
And what are you hearing from your customers in that regard, if anything?
I'm hearing a lot of like singed fingertips, like I thought it was supposed to do this amazing thing and it botched it, and it's not that easy to integrate. And my field service management system just rolled it out and the app got slower and the quotes weren't very good. And, so I hear there is a lot of hype. The delivery isn't always there. So it just goes back to this ROI question. Like, where is there actual really good return on investment on AI? And that's where we're trying to lean in while always experimenting. Like, is this ready yet? No, but it is changing fast. Like, holy crap, it is evolving rapidly. So we keep our eye on it. We try it a lot.
And I mean, if you were to venture a guess, let's say 10 years out, or even 5 years out, if you look in construction, whether it's big shops or small shops or anywhere in between, or commercial or residential, like, I mean, answer it how you want. But is it more kind of tuning and finding efficiencies at the periphery, or is it more of kind of a fundamental revamp to how these businesses are run?
I don't think it's in 5 years. I don't think it's a fundamental revamp necessarily, because the core of it will still be an exceptional craftsperson goes to a home to do a technically complicated job, turning wrenches. That will be, and people will be paid for that. That'll be the core of it. And so I don't see that changing in 5 years. 10 years, maybe Optimus is out and like everyone has one, like that could be interesting. But in 5 years, I don't think so, but maybe I'm wrong. I do think there's a ton of efficiency to be gained in central office stuff. But I don't think it's a fundamental revamp. Like you're going to have Furman on. The core of a business scaling has always been like, I need to hire a great office manager. I still think that's going to be the case. And that office manager generally hires a bunch of people to help them do stuff. Maybe they hire a few fewer people because the AI can do a bunch of it, but you still need really good people in that central office managing the complexity of a business. And the context required is enormous. So you're going to need the context window on these models to expand significantly in order to be able to keep up with all the different nuances of trade. So I don't think it's going to be a fundamental revamp in 5 years, but I think there'll be efficiencies gained for sure.
Well, this has been such a wide-ranging and far-reaching discussion. Is there anything I didn't ask that you wish I did, or anything you'd like to end on? Any parting words for listeners?
Folks interested, check out www.amply.energy, no .com, just .energy. And since I'm on your podcast, I'll make a plug for ours. Our podcast is the Heat Pump Podcast. People are actually interested in heat pumps. Definitely come check us out. But no, it's good to see you back behind a mic, Jason.
Yeah, I'm excited to be back. We'll see where it goes. But like you with your customers, I learned so much from every one of these discussions. So I'm just excited to keep cranking them out and climbing the learning curve, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, thanks again, Ed. Good to be back. Great to learn more about Amply Energy. It's awesome how you're going about it, and yeah, wishing you every success and excited to keep in touch along the way.
Awesome. See you, man.
That's it for this episode of Built Forward. I hope you enjoyed it. If you found it useful, share it with someone building in the industry, and follow the show so you don't miss what's next. Thanks for listening, and see you next week.